Sorry, Daddy. Dude, stop it. That gave me a half chub. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Hate For podcast. This is Dead Pixels, and I'm here with Bert,
Hey everybody.
Trevor,
Hello.
and Marius.
Hey guys.
And we're here to talk about the new systems announced at the CES 2013. So far, we're looking at Nvidia's Project Shield, the Ouya, the GameStick, and what else do we have, Marius?
The Oculus Rift.
The Oculus Rift, the VR headset. All of these are looking pretty promising. We have some pros and cons to go over for you. Right now, I want to start with the Ouya. Now, this is a very attractive option for gamers looking to get into the open source gaming. It's on the Android operating system. I'm sure everyone's heard about it already. It's $99, hooks up to your TV, and what's interesting is essentially the system is really just a hodgepodge of cell phone parts. You're not getting much more than what you have in your pocket every day, but it's very, very accessible from the looks of things for people looking to get into indie games. A lot of games are going to be based around the free-to-play model, with your only transactions coming through additional content. So far, I'm pretty impressed with it. It looks cool. I like the look of the controller. It doesn't look all that different from an Xbox 360 controller. I can see a lot of potential for bringing a lot of the games that you may find uncomfortable on your phone to the big screen and enjoying them that way. Playing. I just got my iPad actually yesterday, and I'll tell you, playing a lot of first-person shooters on a touch screen is pretty unintuitive. I can't really get too comfortable with it. Still not very acquainted with the controls. Same with my phone. But I can see this just being much more intuitive and accessible for people who otherwise would be missing out on, quality games with these controls fixed. What do you guys think about the Ouya?
My first question though is I forgot, does the controller have a touchscreen on it?
No, it does not.
So then a lot of games like Angry Birds and things like that are really popular probably won't really work that well on the Ouya.
Well, they are also on the PS3, so if they're working on the PS3, why not on the Ouya?
There's Angry Birds on the PS3?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I don't own a PS3, so I didn't know that.
I imagine that really kills the experience, though, actually using the controller. I mean, the whole sensation of flinging the birds back and letting go is pretty much the main draw with Angry Birds and other touchscreen games. I think that Mad Finger shooters, like you look at Shadowgun and Dead Trigger and Dead Trigger 2, which is in the works now. Those are really going to benefit from actually having that kind of tactile feedback of an actual physical controller.
Right. Yeah, and I've even played some games on there that I'm thinking, man, this would be an awesome game if I just had a controller to play it.
Yeah, and it's also great for indie developers which don't have the money for the SDK for the PS3 or Xbox Live.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you already have companies like independent developer Watermelon, who was responsible for Pure Solar. They reached their funding goal actually on the Pure Solar HD Kickstarter campaign to release the Ouya version of Pure Solar, which it's awesome. I mean, again, a lot of indie developers who probably, I mean, they are actually going to have their game on the Xbox Live. But it just seems like it's a promising avenue for developers who otherwise wouldn't have the kind of financial backing to, get the licensing agreements with the big companies.
Right, and I can that makes a lot of sense because Xbox has some pretty stringent licensing fees and stuff like that to get stuff on the Xbox Live. So if something like the Ouya helps indie developers grow even more because it's going to be an open source thing and they can basically just put whatever they want on there. That will help a lot. And
one of the things that Ouya had also said was that they were going to make it readily accessible to Rootbox, didn't they? So that you can basically just go ahead and crack that puppy open and do what you have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I think my major concern with the Ouya is the fact that, like I had said before, essentially what we're getting right now, at least with the first revision of the system, is going to be essentially a hodgepodge, like I said, of cell phone parts. I don't know how much longevity the original Ouya model is going to have, and I wouldn't be surprised if 6 months to a year down the road they're already releasing a second version of the system that people are going to have to buy. I see the first run with this being very experimental, and I mean, the Kickstarter campaign was a tremendous success, so I can easily see those who have dedicated themselves to supporting the system, understanding that concept and moving on to, whatever comes in the future. But at the same time, I myself, I mean, I kind of have cold feet because of that. If it doesn't really take off, that's unfortunate. The idea has a great deal of promise, but just how impressive is this going to be versus the offerings that, again, we're seeing from Nvidia with the Shield coming up in the future, and also the Steam Box, which is going to have a very similar model.
That, and anytime you bring up something that's a hodgepodge of cell phone parts, you got to remember, oh man, the N gauge did so well.
Oh,
Yeah, so you've got that factor in there too. Investors can get cold feet about it. The hardware can be gawky. We won't really know more about it, I guess, until we've got one of the units to play around with and find out a little bit more. But like you said, it has promise. But so did Engage. So don't get too attached to it, especially when you've got big players kind of looking at these things, figuring out ways to either buy it or co-opt it so it doesn't compete with their bigger box solutions. They definitely have some obstacles in front of them.
well, see, that's also you mentioned investors getting cold feet. But I mean, you look at the Ouya and the original goal, I'm sorry, was for $950,000. Now they raked in over $8.5 million. So I
Ton
think
of
that
money.
with Kickstarter now, you really don't have to you be concerned about investors so much as you're appealing directly to the consumer. These people really wanted to see this happen, and I mean, they by multitudes they reached their goal. So
And then sometimes you get Kurt Schilling, who takes a lot of money and drives the Kingdom's Vomiler into the ground. So there's pros and cons to it, and I do think Kickstarter does have a lot of promise. It better have a lot of promise. I threw $60 at the people at Harebrained Studios so that I could get a Shadowrun game, and with any luck, it's still on target, and I have my copy this fall. So if they
right.
don't, I'm going to have to hire some Street Samurai and send it after them. With any luck, it does work though for Ouya. This looks like it would be something that would be really fun and really kind of like you'd said, innovative. So best of luck to them. But let's hope that the industry monster doesn't maim the baby too bad before it can be presented.
Right,
Are
right.
you guys going to get a Ouya? And if so, why? And if not, why?
Like I had said before, really, I have a smartphone. I can play a lot of the games that are going to be on the Ouya that way. I have an iPad. I'm going to play them that way as well. Unless we see a lot of Ouya specific offerings, I'd love to support it, but I really don't know how many times I need to have the medium to play the same games. I don't know if it really has a place in my living room right now, but I think it's an awesome concept and I can see it being appealing to others. How about you guys?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, until it has some sort of game where I actually want to sit down in front of my TV for a couple hours and play it, then I don't think that I would probably get it. I mean that's the whole point of having a home console as opposed to a cell phone game or a mobile thing is you kind of set aside time to play these things, and if it's nothing bigger than like Angry Birds, I can only play that for like maybe 10 minutes at a time.
Right. How about you, Bert?
You pretty much hit it on the head with that. You're talking about Android games. You're talking about games meant to be played on your smartphone. I got a smartphone already. Not really seeing a huge need of having to, project it up on a flat screen TV. I can do everything I need with my batteries, but this might be right up there for like casual gamers, which is a huge market. I mean, look at how many people have been, more or less zombified into creating virtual farms on Facebook. For that crowd, Ouya's they're probably kind of looking at that crowd to kind of capture that particular segment. In that case, it'll work, but I really don't fall into it for the most
But
part.
Right.
another thing, on that token, you talk about the Farmville gamer. I don't really think that those kind of casual gamers are as heavily invested into the industry to actually know that this even exists. So I don't think it's really going to fall on that kind of consumer. It's definitely, I mean, as with all kickstarted, game projects, They're really looking for the hardcore gamer, someone who really takes an interest in the things that are brewing under the surface in the industry. And it's not really going to appeal to those people, I don't think, who,
Yet,
just sit at their computer, check their email, check their Facebook, and, whittle away a couple of minutes on, like you said, Farmville or whatever.
Yet
Uh,
Android, we're talking about, Android for the correct me if I'm wrong, but Android is basically towards the handheld, smartphone market.
yeah,
We're really not looking at it being able to run anything too beefy. Like you said, you're playing Angry Birds and stuff like that on that, and that's pretty casual. Although you can get people who are like dogs with bones. They just kind of get on there and give Angry Birds to a 4-year-old and watch what happens.
yeah.
They're kind of looking for that obsessive personality, but we're not looking at anything that's going to require huge amounts of horsepower. And ultimately, they're probably going to be the kind of games where you mindlessly play it to while away some time until Fringe comes on TV, or
Right.
until something else comes up, or until you've got a new title. So,
Yeah.
Francis, I think you're wrong on your point because the Wii sold at casual gamers, and how did they know about it?
Because it's Nintendo. You can't get a much bigger branding than that.
yeah, there's a pretty big brand that fuels Nintendo and what it does. Just about everybody
Yeah,
who's 8 years old knows about it, and they talk, that their parents learn about it, and then word of mouth kind of takes it away.
Right. I mean, your grandma, who's in the nursing home, probably had access to a Wii to get her bowling on. I mean, they had them in nursing homes, hospitals, everywhere. Your great aunt talks to you about it at Christmas dinner. I mean, for Christ's sake. But the thing is, you're not. Those aren't the same people who are trolling the internet for this kind of stuff. The Ouya doesn't have the mass branding power that Nintendo has. And they're not going to at any rate. I mean, this is not going to become a household product, that's for sure. This is a very niche item. But the way you have to look at it really is you don't have the instant cell like the motion controller. This looks essentially like a 360 controller. It's no, but really there's not anything that instantly sells this to anyone who doesn't, follow independent game development.
no, what I mean is once it gets into stores and people actually see it, it will spread through word of mouth.
Do you see this really making retail at major chains like Best Buy and stuff like that?
For as long as Best Buy is going to be around.
Yeah, but no, I really have a lot of trouble seeing this actually making its way into a brick and mortar establishments.
I think it just has potential to be a big hit, but I think if it does, it would start very slow.
Right.
So I haven't talked about if I'm going to get it or not. I don't think I'm going to get it because I'm a collector at heart and I mostly play games to collect them. I have a huge collection of retro games and I want to have physical copies of the games which I can hold in my hands.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Got to
the way
catch them all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's the thing with all these systems is, I mean, you're looking at DRM, you're looking at you don't own the game, you own the game license, and how long are these systems really going to be viable formats for you to play the games you buy? And that's always a concern with anything that's focused primarily on digital software distribution. And I know personally that scares me. That's why I don't usually invest too heavily in these formats. I'm not even especially crazy about Steam, to tell you the truth. I know that's blasphemy, but again, your games are only as viable as their servers are.
Yeah. I mean, probably 90% of the games I own on Steam were bought on sale for like maybe $10 at the most.
Right.
But there is a problem with Steam. If there are games, if the licensing runs out of time, let's say a game with music in it, if they lose the license to one of the songs, Steam needs to pull the entire game from Steam, and even people who have already downloaded can't re-download the game, even though they have already paid for it.
Right.
Speaking of Steam, this is probably a good point to jump into the Steambox platform, which also was coming out.
Yeah, the Steam box, the thing about that is, if anyone, I'm sure everyone's heard about it. They've been talking. There's been rumors flying around forever now that Valve is actually looking on getting their own box out, and things, ever since CES have really come to life about that. With Valve actually talking about what their plan is. It looks like the biggest surprise there is the Steam box itself isn't a console, but rather an operating system that's going to be supported on a variety of machines from the entry level to the high end. Having, their Steam's big picture perspective here, where you're actually going to be able to take the entire Steam library and play it anywhere you want. Most people are going to look to play this in their living room on their TV. I think that's a fantastic idea. But again, when they talk about, multiple tiers into actually getting into the format, I don't feel you're really escaping, the caveats that computer gaming actually deals with right now, and that you need to really,
Well,
you
it
could have the lowest running rig and you're not getting that much performance. You could get the budget model, but are you better off than the computer you have now? I mean, I think you're on a slippery slope there where the point is starting to become a little bit void. You can have your computer hooked up to your television with an HDMI cable, and that might, function better than the lower end system. So
Well, that's basically what the Steambox is. You can even install Windows. There isn't really an operating system. It runs off
it's
Ubuntu
Linux
Linux.
based, right?
Yeah.
But
And
oh, go
you
ahead.
can do whatever you want. You can run Netflix, you can run any Linux or Windows program. You can do everything you can do with a PC. It basically is a tiny PC with a sticker for Steam on it.
So the question is, why does it need to exist? Is pretty much my
Right.
perspective
If it
there.
does everything that a PC can do, why not just hook up your PC to the TV?
Yeah, everything in my living room does all of this already. So,
Well, it's tiny and it fits next to your TV.
Like the
well,
Ouya.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
but it
cute.
has power.
And Linux people love to have their kitschy boxes where they can kind of jump in there and say, "Hey, look, I did this myself."
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, I do think out of all the Steambox avenues, we're looking at Xi3's Piston is probably the most impressive. The unit is absolutely tiny. It's a micro PC that can actually be bracketed to the back of your television. So I mean, it's impressive form factor, and the fact it's so small, I'm sure are going to draw a lot of people in. The thing is, even those are going to come off as a little bit pricey. We're looking at probably upwards of $500 to own probably the base model of the system. Um, on that note, you're already looking at, you give me $350, I can build you a really nice gaming PC. Is this really a necessity? I don't think we're escaping the fact that a lot of people, the reason they don't play PC games is they look at the cost and just how much of a chore it is to actually get into PC gaming. I mean, it's an investment. I think it's going to dissuade a lot of people. I really do. I see that being a large hurdle they're going to have to try to overcome to actually get the Steam box into mainstream, which is where they want to be.
Well, there isn't only going to be one Steambox and not multiple tiers. There are other companies also creating Steambox, which Valve hasn't specified which companies are this.
Right.
Uh,
But that's the issue is again, you're getting into so many choices and so many specifications. Have we really stepped outside of the fact that everybody has a PC that performs on a different level? The whole idea behind Steambox, you would think, is to have a universal standard where everyone can enjoy these games and bring them into the mainstream. So you're not looking at PC gaming anymore. You're looking at your living room. With all these different setups, you're going to have so many varying degrees of performance. Have we really escaped that concern? I find it very
well,
difficult to believe that that's going to resolve that.
what I think is going to happen is like great. Let's say they have a grade system from 1 through 5, and 1 games are casual games which don't take much RAM and graphic power, and 5 are powerhouse games like Crysis or Battlefield.
Right. And is this unit going to be priced similarly to a PC that runs those games? And if so, again, why are we at where we're at? Not really for the sake of arguing. It's just I'm really, having trouble figuring out how this is going to actually become a viable option. Because again, Steam wants to get out of the crowded PC industry and start carving their own path with this and bringing these Steam games to a larger audience. If they can't get rid of the hurdles that come with actually choosing a decent gaming PC with their own boxes, I find it really difficult to see where they're actually going to go with this. What do you guys think, Bert, Trevor?
Yeah, there's just one point that I wanted to make about the whole, it's not really just one box licensed by Steam. It's going to be a bunch of different manufacturers and, other tiers and models. And I'm thinking, there was another point in gaming history where we had this, where home consoles were made by, the same home console could have been made by Sears or something like that back in the early 80s, and that caused a huge downfall in the whole video game industry.
Yeah, you're
And
looking
so
at the crash of the 80s.
Right, because of the oversaturation and the lack of control over the hardware and things like that.
Right. Thankfully, I don't think this is, I mean, not to say I don't want this to succeed, but I find it hard to believe that this is going to become mainstream enough where that's actually going to become an issue with the industry as a whole.
But you kinda can see the future of Steam if you look at the Steam box. All Steam boxes are going to run on Linux first, meaning most Steam games need to be converted to Linux. Because at the moment, the version is out like 2 months, Steam for Linux, and there are like 100 games only which are working on Linux,
Right.
meaning they are going to convert all of the games so they can run on Linux, and once this is possible, they are probably going to release the Steambox.
What's your take, Bert?
Well, I'm kind of going back to what you had mentioned with, why don't you just play this on your computer? I mean, hell, I have a Mac, one of the most game hostile platforms that I can think of, and I can run Steam on it. As a matter of fact, I can get a whole mess of games on it, and for the games that I can get it on my laptop. So again, it comes back to why would I get another device that I have to take up a plug with, run more juice through, when I could do this on my on my actual personal computer. It seems kind of redundant to me. If they want to kind of get it to a point where Steam is more accessible to the layperson, that's fine. But I've got my own machine. I really don't need the convenience of it going to my television. I can go ahead and I can stream the content from my machine out to my television just fine. Thank you very much, without any more devices. So it's probably not going to end up on my shelf. As much as I like and support Steam, it seems like an unnecessary box for anybody who can put together a decent computer. The only thing that I could see this as being useful for is part of the reason that I do have the Xbox, other than the fact that it has a huge amount of games that I can play on it, is that ultimately that console has been running for me for 3-4 years. People still making stuff for it. Platform's still good. You got a lot of people in the PC community who are willing to throw money hand over fist into their custom boxes so that they can continue to get the best graphics. Graphics on the Xbox are pretty good. If they're looking to do something and streamlining the Steam box with that, and they can make that work for them, great. Maybe they can have a viable console. But again, this is really something that I'm a personal computer user by nature for a lot of different things, and if I've got something that'll run it already, I don't want another piece of hardware junking up my room.
Well said. Now, Marius, do you want to lead us on with the game stick? Because you seem to know a little bit more about that than I do.
Yeah. So the GameStick is basically a USB stick which you plug into your HDMI port of your TV, and it allows you to play games based on Android. Which Android, do you know which Android version it's based on?
I am really not sure. I want to say Jelly Bean.
Yeah, it's Jelly Bean. It has 1 GB of RAM and 8 GB of flash storage. And it's basically like a Ouya, but it as a stick. You can use it to download games, and it doesn't have any kind of physical games. It runs in 1080p, and the console itself can be stored inside the controller of the console.
Interesting. Now, are the games purchased directly to the stick?
Yeah, they are loaded onto the stick, onto its 8 GB of flash storage.
Interesting, interesting. Now, how about power? Can you give us a side by side of what we can expect from the game stick versus the Ouya? Are we looking at some pretty similar parts here, or what?
It's going to be pretty even. I don't have the Ouya's technical specifications in my mind right now, but it has 1 GB of RAM, which I think is around what the Ouya has. And it has a M-Logic 8726 MX processor.
That's actually really impressive considering the size of this thing.
Yeah. And it even has cloud storage for saves. So if you take your controller and go over to your friend's house and play there, you can continue with your save as long as you log into your account.
Now, do we have the backing of any big publishers or developers here? Is anyone else talking about the game stick right now?
Well, at the moment, only big tech sites have been talking about this, but no companies. But I guess that's because the Kickstarter still has 11 days to go.
Right. It'll be interesting to see how in a week and a half this really pans out and what ends up happening from there.
Once they have their budget, and it sounds like it'll firm up a little bit and it'll be more baked, for lack of a better word. And then we'll know more once they see what they've got to work with. The question that I have really is, GameStick and Ouya, they sound like they're siblings.
Yeah.
Bear in mind that until we started recording this podcast today, Ouya and GameStick were not even on my radar. So what really differentiates these two? These sound the same to me.
Well, you're looking at a $79 price point versus a $99 price point. You're looking at such a marginal difference in cost, and I think that you get a much nicer looking controller with the Ouya. It seems like what they're showing with the GameStick, from what I've seen at least, is a very utilitarian kind of theme going on here. It looks very basic. Like Bert had said before, the controller looks very like a Nintendo, like an NES controller. Kind of bare bones there. Really, I don't know if I see a lot of people preferring to pick this up over the Ouya just because it looks, all told, very bare bones.
My guess is this and the Ouya are going to be compatible with each another. Well, it has the same controls input. If you look at it, it has the same buttons in the same place. It has the same joysticks in the same place. It's exactly the same. So developers are going to develop a game for the GameStick and the Ouya at the same time because it's basically the same. They only need to change maybe a few lines of code
Right.
because both run on Android.
Again, looking at this, I can't help but think about what Trevor said about oversaturation. All these different choices. I mean, we're going to see, I think, a lot of these companies maybe go bust in this game.
Well, competition always does that. And when the market is basically being forced to drink from the fire hose, they're going to find a way to stem the tide and throw their money behind the platform that is the best. So
Right.
we'll probably see them winnow at each other. We saw the same thing with a lot of flash-in-the-pan systems from back in the day. I mean, as much as you love your Neo Geo, Frank, I couldn't afford the money to get that when I was a kid. TurboGrafx, same thing. That didn't happen. CDO. We can go on with a lot of different platforms that had a lot of promise, but ultimately you come down to a few core. So it sounds like these guys, even if they are compatible with each other, probably won't be above kicking each other in the slats to see who's going to be the biggest dog.
Yeah, absolutely. Lastly, we're coming to the end of our new hardware segment. I think all we have left right now is Nvidia's Project Shield. Marius, you want to tell
And
us a little
the
bit about that?
Oculus Rift.
Oh,
I
and the
forgot
Rift, that's correct.
So which one do we want to do first?
Really, it's up to you, buddy.
Let's go ahead with the Nvidia's handheld. So it's basically a Xbox controller with a screen attached to it. It can stream games from your computer, but you also can play games on it. It has a pretty good processor. Wait a minute, I'm going to get. It has a Tegra 4 processor. It takes micro SD cards. It has a HDMI video output, and the battery provides 5 to up till 10 hours of playtime.
Now, those specs are really impressive. They're saying that the Tegra 4 is actually 6 times more powerful than the very impressive Tegra 3 mobile processor. I've seen footage of Hawken running on the Shield, and it looks absolutely incredible. The only thing that I'm really concerned about is the fact that to play PC games on this, you're going to have your Shield tethered to a gaming PC, and that might be a little more overhead than a lot of people are really interested in. A PC, I'm sorry, that is supported by an Nvidia chipset at that. But overall, I think that graphically this thing looks incredible. Again, it might come with a little bit too much baggage to really compete with the Vita. Not that the Vita's doing too hot right now, or the 3DS. But it seems like a cool option, definitely. I can see a lot of people getting some enjoyment out of something with that much horsepower if it's utilized well enough.
Yeah, and I forgot to say it also runs on Android like the other two devices which we just talked about.
Right. So if you're not tethering the unit to an actual gaming PC, you're probably going to get a lot of the same gaming options. And I think it's going to be interesting to see if a lot of developers are actually going to take the time to program games for the more powerful system. But at the same time, the Tegra 4 is probably going to become pretty mainstream in the next year with the new line of tablet PCs and phones as well.
But isn't it pretty bold for Nvidia to now go into the handheld market while it's basically dying? I mean, look at the Vita. Nintendo said they won't be doing a new handheld the next time. They are going to combine handhelds and home consoles. So basically, no one is going to make a next generation handheld after this generation.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm sorry, Trevor. Go
I
ahead.
say it seems like Nvidia is already kind of beating them to the punch because if it streams games from your PC, it seems like they're already trying to combine at least PC gaming and handheld in the same thing. So I mean
Yeah.
that kind of makes sense. It seems like they're a little ahead of the curve.
Yeah, that's actually my guess what the next Nintendo handheld is going to be. I think it's going to be a gamepad for the Wii U, which you can take outside.
My only problem with that is, it streams from your PC, but how far does that go? I mean, can you like play your PC games while on a road trip or something like that? You don't
I'm
have to
sure you're
take
going
it
to
away.
have a wireless hotspot connection.
Yeah, and you can, I mean, with Nintendo console, you're probably also going to have an operating system, especially for the controller. And it's the same here.
And I
Yeah.
was, I was also
Trevor.
curious about the SD. You said that use an SD card. I mean, what would there be special games that you could put on an SD card?
No, it's just a micro SD card for saving, and you can put music up and all the good stuff.
Okay.
And storage for games, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that about covers it. Bert, did you have any thoughts on the Shield?
not particularly on the Shield. I had that initial flash of excitement when we talked about it last week, and got to the tell me more, I want to know more phase, and when it was one of those things where, well, it streams it to a smaller screen on a handheld Xbox controller, I'm willing to roll out of bed and go to my machine to play my games.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I can be pretty lazy when I want to be, but I ain't that lazy. So it sounds like a good idea, but Marius, I think, kind of hit it on the head when he introduced it as an Xbox controller that they snapped the screen on. Not exactly a ringing endorsement.
Yeah, and a very large Xbox controller, from what I'm understanding as well. Even
Yeah, it
people with
does look
very
huge.
large hands are saying that this thing is
Yeah.
huge.
And if you take a closer look at the picture, the analog sticks are deep down in the system, so the screen doesn't snap on them.
Right, I noticed the
What?
system itself has a little bit of a concave to it.
Yeah, that looks like it's going to hurt your fingers after a while.
Yeah, I could see that. But I mean, this could still be a prototype.
Yeah, it could be. But the developers have pretty good things to say about it. Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot said, Ubisoft is always excited about new hardware developments, and Project Shield promises to bring both mobile and PC gamers a great new gaming experience. Seeing the PC version of Assassin's Creed 3 run on the device is a great example of this, and further strengthens Ubisoft's long-standing relationship with Nvidia. So that sounds pretty promising. Mark Reiner, co-founder of Epic Games, which have done some pretty good iOS games lately, said, with Project Shield, Nvidia brings an uncompromising high-performance console experience to mobile devices. Amazing games including Real Boxing and Hawken, which utilize the latest Unreal Engine technology, look fantastic on Project Shield. This is just the beginning, and we are truly excited to see what more Unreal Engine developers will do with so much horsepower in such a compact gaming device.
Those are, there's some really promising endorsements. Really, I guess it's going to depend on how this thing is actually marketed and the price point.
But nothing has said about that yet. Well,
Right, and
I
that goes for
guess,
most of these so far.
yeah, I guess we
Yeah.
have to wait a bit for that one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but with again, with the Tegra 4 processor in there, this could cost a pretty penny at this point.
Yeah, but the screens have gotten really cheap with smartphones being so on the rise right now.
Well, that sounds pretty impressive, but again, we're just going to have to wait to see how much this costs and see if, like again, these developers are saying promising things, but just how much are they actually going to support the unit when it's released. Now, lastly, on the hardware front, I want to talk about the Oculus Rift. I know Marius is very excited about this. I mean, the thing looks phenomenal, and the results of their Kickstarter campaign have been unbelievable. They only were looking for, I believe, $250,000 to fund the project, and the Kickstarter campaign actually ended up securing almost $2.5 million. It's looking fantastic. You're having the StereoVision VR headset that is really going to immerse gamers, I think, into the actual games they're playing. John Carmack from id says, "What I've got now is honestly, I think, the best VR demo probably the world has ever seen." Cliff Blazinski says, "Needless to say, I'm a believer. We're extremely excited here at Epic Games to get the Unreal Engine integrated into the Oculus Rift." Uh, I know that I've seen Hawken in action on the machine, and while I haven't actually worn the unit myself, it looks phenomenal. Just imagining yourself
Oh,
immersed into a giant mech flying over cities and raining down hell, while you have this super low latency head tracking, just sounds phenomenal and immersive, and I can't wait to check it out. It sounds fantastic. I know Marius, you funded the project. You have a Rift coming to you. What are you
Yeah.
thinking?
It's coming in March to me, and I can't wait for it. I think it's the newest revolution in gaming, which the Wii U should have been, but wasn't, sadly.
Right.
two
So
words, Daddy want.
And really, I mean, looking at the thing, guys, the price point's super reasonable. $300, you get yourself a Rift. I cannot think of a more affordable way to actually be this immersed into a game. You're looking at military headsets, you thousands and thousands of dollars for similar technology. They've really found a way to trim the fat and still offer a very attractive looking, comfortable looking package to really immerse the gamers into the experience. And I don't know. Again, this is kind of a niche item, but I can see this really, really picking up amongst the hardcore gamers. Oh, what do you
So,
guys think?
oh well, yeah, I had a couple questions I'm curious about. I mean, is this a standalone thing or is it just another display that you attach to your computer?
it's like a display for your head, but it will also be compatible with the next generation of consoles, and it acts as a controller which you move with your head.
Okay.
It's going to have stereoscopic 3D, and it's going to come with a few games. It's going to come with Doom 3 BFG edition, which is a remake of Doom 3, and is going to include Doom 1 and Doom 2 in the original form.
Huh.
And it's going to come with the Epic Citadel, which was on iOS, but it's completely redone for the Oculus, and it's going to come with a few tech demos, like a city, a castle, a space station where you can go around, and it's using an Xbox 360 controller.
So you mentioned it's going to be like a cross console type thing too. Then you'll be able to buy the unit and just kind of plug it into a PS3 in addition to an Xbox by the
Yeah,
sound of it.
but that's only going to be possible with the consumer version, the version which I'm going to get this March. And if you still want to get one, you can order it via their website, but it will arrive in April. This version will be only for Mac, PC, Linux, and iOS. And basically every game which works in the Unreal Engine is going to be ported in like 5 clicks because of a SDK update.
And that's a
So
that's a lot of titles there because the
Yeah.
the Unreal Engine fuels a significant amount of the gaming industry. Last
Yes.
time I checked.
yeah, like you can basically play every Portal game, the newest Arrow to the Knee games, if you know what I'm talking about.
Portal would be awesome on something like that. That would give you an immersive and probably motion sickness inducing kind of thing that would go on with that. I could really see Doom induced motion sickness as a result of that in
Well,
a good way.
Don't
people
market
have
this in Japan.
I know what they are going to do with it.
Could you
The people,
imagine playing Mirror's Edge on something like that, Frank?
Oh my
How
God, that would be
badass would that
incredible.
be?
Yeah, that would be fantastic. And again, I believe that Ubisoft is supporting this, aren't they?
I don't know about Ubisoft, but Valve definitely is.
Yeah, definitely. It's looking incredible. And again, with Gabe Newell is a really strong proponent of the unit, saying it looks incredibly exciting. If anybody's going to tackle this set of hard problems, we think that Palmer's going to do it. So we'd strongly encourage you to support this Kickstarter. Um, I don't know, Half-Life 3 when it comes out in 2025 or whenever it does will probably be a perfect fit for the Oculus Rift. And as a huge Half-Life fan, I do look forward to playing the game with the Rift.
I agree.
Uh, when the Rift was first shown on conventions like Gamescom last summer, many people said they got motion sick. But at CES, they had a new screen with higher resolution and faster tracking rate installed in the prototypes, and they said the same people which tried it at Gamescom said they didn't have any problems this time. It was faster, no motion blur, and it was just fantastic for them.
So it wasn't like the Virtual Boy where people were known to bleed from the eyes, mouth, and anus. That's relieving. Well, we've gone over all the new systems announced at CES 2013, and a lot of them sound really exciting. Now, there is one thing I want to talk about. If everyone's, have you guys finished your thoughts on the new systems?
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah, I'm good.
One thing came up last week. I was skimming through our news feed here, the press releases from Deep Silver, and stumbled across the Dead Island Riptide Zombie Bait Edition. Now, I'm sure the internet imploded when this news broke last week about the 12-inch resin statue that comes packed with the game in Britain and in Australia. The pack-in is a severed torso, missing its limbs and head. It's sporting a Union Jack bikini and is rather voluptuous and blood-soaked. You know, it's unbelievable, but believe it or not, the fans of the zombie genre who were looking forward to this game were completely disgusted by this statue and raised enough hell and ire that by noon, Deep Silver had actually issued an apology saying that the company said the statue was inspired by the violence in the game. A decision was made to include a gruesome statue of a zombie torso, which was cut up like so many of our fans had done to the undead enemies in the original Dead Island. But regardless, Deep Silver said it sincerely regrets this choice and that it's committed to making sure this will never happen again. But really, this put a bad taste in my mouth, guys. First of all, I find it really unbelievable that a simple statue is being held to such a high standard. People are calling Techland misogynistic, that they're sexist for marketing this. But guys, you walk into any comic book shop, you look at the lines of statues on the walls, all these heroines, rather busty, voluptuous. You don't see any Pats from Saturday Night Live sporting the unitard and cape, and it's for a reason. It doesn't sell, guys. It's not appealing. Not to be sexist. I'm not going for that. I'm not saying that this is okay. I'm saying this is commonplace. I don't know why Techland and Deep Silver were really strung up and beaten and completely drawn and quartered, much like this statue, over something that you buy any horror movie box set. You can get a macabre figurine or statue, some gruesome novelty item that just fits with the theme. Zombie game on the beach. You can't separate the holy trinity of blood, bikinis, and boobs from a zombie game on the beach, and you have all of them right here. What do you guys think?
I completely agree. I mean, it's not like the horror genre is something of the highest class, to begin with. And, if you don't like it, that's great, but don't ruin it for anyone else. And plus, you have other games out there like Lollipop Chainsaw, Bikini Zombie Slayers already. I mean, it's not like it's been a new thing either.
Yeah, anybody here ever played Oni Chanbara? I mean, really?
Right.
Come on. That game was a lot more suggestive in its themes and in its presentation than this. And I mean, honestly, yes, there's this well-endowed figurine which has been placed in here, which also, I don't know about you guys, but it really doesn't hit any buttons seeing a torso being mauled and mutilated and whatnot like that.
I didn't even get a quarter chub, and that's saying something.
Chalk one up for Franny's libido again. Wonderful. If that turns you on, Franny, you really need to reevaluate your life. But honestly, when it comes down to it, too, I mean, you mentioned the whole thing with nobody's presenting any heroes, any heroines as Pat from Saturday Night Live. I got news for you. The guys really, were always presented as, the men are always manly men, cut, square jaw, able to go in there and go ahead and punch a Nazi out in a single blow. You idealize heroes in fiction no matter what you do, because people like reading about exceptional people, and oftentimes it's one of those people are going to be exceptional not only in what they do but also in how they look, and this goes right into the marketing. If you're going to have a book that's going to have the one guy who looks average or the really pretty girl on it, the way that we're kind of wired is we're looking for that kind of idealism in things. Be that right or wrong, that's something that happens. It's an identifiable thing. You can look it up and look into the way the mind works. And we're just hyper-reactive, particularly here in the States. Now, this is a pack-in that isn't even something that's coming to the States. This looks like this is a Euro and Australia thing. But I'm willing to bet that if we dig into the IP data of who's writing in pissed off about it, it's Americans. I'm
Right.
almost willing to bet dollars to donuts on that.
Probably America is the king. The Americans are the best at manufactured outrage.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't
Or
argue
even,
with that.
or even actual, honest, puritanical rage. Especially if you go to if you go to specific parts of America. You know, that you're going to see people that honestly get concerned about, you know, is our children learning? And, you know, that kind of mentality that comes into it. What message does this send to our children? And people wave the American flag and talk about puritanical values. So,
Yeah,
you know,
but why do these people buy a game which is for 18-year-old people for children, which is most likely 5 up to 10?
and they totally don't. It's one of those conundrums.
Like you said, it's manufactured rage. Look, it's a zombie themed game. Again, people are going to be get ripped apart the entire time by your own hands at that. It was commonplace in the first game. I really don't know how this was a button issue, aside from the fact that it has a mean pair of chesticles. Um, I don't understand this is a hot button issue, but really, uh, everything here is part and parcel what the game's all about. If you intended to buy the game, this statue should not offend you. It's horror again. Ever since babysitters have been getting bludgeoned in the bedroom while fucking their boyfriends, this has been commonplace in horror. And if this offends you, I don't know, take up horseback riding or crocheting or going fucking yourself, because really, it's not all that outrageous, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head exactly there. If you were already intended to buying this game, then you wouldn't mind the statue. And if you don't like the statue, you probably weren't going to buy the game anyway. So who the fuck cares?
I don't know, people who were very sensitive about the feelings of a foot tall piece of resin, I guess.
It's mostly a Crusader topic, and again, you could have an entire other podcast on misogyny in gaming and popular culture, but honestly, it's kind of hard to see here. Now, obviously, there's probably a little bit of a fanboyish thing like you see in anime. Anime uses cheesecake to huge effect, but we're also talking about different cultures and things along those lines too. Like I said, Americans, you know, love to get that manufactured outrage, like Franny had said, and just take the ball and run with it. But it's not a huge deal from where I'm standing from it. I wouldn't even buy a special edition for the game because that's more junk to junk up my apartment.
No, and if it's any consolation to anyone who was tremendously offended by, Torsogate and its fiasco, I make a solemn promise to all of our listeners here at Hey Poor Podcast, and that is, if we ever release a HeyPoorPlayer.com video game, I will personally craft and hand paint a statue of Trevor's groin in a bikini. Or a Speedo, your choice. You get two options here. I will hand paint the damn thing and send it to you. Because you know what? I think that would be just as badass.
I am on board with this.
The extra junk edition.
The extra junk edition. The junk in the trunk edition.
So I'm going to guess this statue is definitely not going to come out in Germany because we love censoring games because of every bit of blood, because Germans can see blood, so it seems. And
We know what happened the last time a German saw red, Marius.
Too soon.
Oh dear.
Oh, I know, red didn't leave Germany until '89, actually.
Yeah, and we censor almost every game. Call of Duty, no blood. Every game, Battlefield, no blood, and
Hey,
some games even don't come out in Germany
Look at
because they have
Contra, Probotector, right?
Yeah, we
Turok,
had
all robots.
Yeah.
The G.I. Joe effect. It's okay to kill those bat soldiers that are on the ground, but never anything that screams and bleeds.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, well, that pretty much concludes my thoughts on Torsogate. Anyone else have an opinion?
No, I pretty much said all I wanted to.
We're pretty much at the Sturman drawing part of it, so yeah, we're cool.
All right, well, I'm sticking true to my promise about if we ever release a game. So, Trevor, I'm telling you, man, Stairmaster, we can do this.
All right, yeah, I'm on board.
Awesome. Okay. Lastly, I guess that really concludes everything that we wanted to go over today. So we're just going to do the What You've Been Playing segment. Starting off, let's go with Bert. What you been up to, buddy? What you playing?
The PS3 is having a renaissance. We've been watching a lot of videos on it, and in addition to it, got $25 gift card from Best Buy. So I went out and I bought the Uncharted series, which did not really get a huge boost out of me when I tried the demo for it. But a friend of mine put Uncharted 3 in hand and said, you should play this. So I thought, nah, going to go back and start from the beginning. That way we're adding features as opposed to subtracting them with each game. And I've gotten through the first couple of encounters. It's fun. The only difficulties I've had is with the targeting system on it. It's one of those, I think I'm going to be aiming at this guy when I come out from cover, and then no, I'm way off the mark, and I have to zoom in all the while being shot in the face. But so far it's been fun. It's the thinking gamer's Tomb Raider thus far. It seems to be handled a little bit better than the games from the past. We'll see how the new Tomb Raider is. Which I'm told, if you want to have an argument about misogyny, you can talk about that game, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Because of the whole, apparently within the first 15 minutes of that game, there's a sexual assault.
Right.
But with Uncharted, it's been fun. I'm looking forward to going through the series. I'll probably have more to say by the next time we have the next podcast come through.
Nice. How about you, Trevor? What you been playing?
I haven't really been playing much new since the last podcast. I've been dealing with finding a new apartment and moving soon. So, but I have played something that I haven't picked up in a while, Killing Floor on Steam, which I forgot how fun it was until I picked it up the other day, and I might be playing that a lot more in the future.
No, I never really picked that up. What's Killing Floor all about?
It's basically Left 4 Dead, but also like kind of mixed with the whole like gun buying, like Counter-Strike. And it's a team-based zombie shooter. You have special zombies. A lot of similarities to the Left 4 Dead zombies. There's like a really huge fat thing that spits on you and you can't see. You have like banshees that will scream at you and it takes off health and kind of disorients you. And but it has a lot more crazy ones, like big beefy ones with chainsaws for arms that come at you. And
so I'm taking this is a little more arcade style than Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, it's a little bit more arcade style, and it's I think it's made by Tripwire Games, which is a British developer. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's set up. It has dedicated servers and stuff, a lot like Team Fortress and other Valve games, and it's a lot of fun.
Sounds awesome. I have to check it out.
Yeah.
How about you, Marius? What you been playing?
So I've been playing a ton of games, so this is going to be a little bit long. Okay, I've completed Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor 2 for the Nintendo DS within a week, which took me around 40 hours, and with standby time and dying in the 3DS menu, you can see how long it took you. It was 70 hours.
Oh, jeez.
Wow.
But
And you did that in a week? That's like having a job, Marius.
well ahead of. Okay.
Germans are twice as efficient. They get it done faster.
Well, we speak out of experience.
So what else you been playing?
I just want to say one thing. I don't want to spoil the game for the listeners, but if they have played the game, I have played the AO route, and if you're going to play the game yourself, play that route. It's the best route in the entire game. And I have been playing a ton of Pokemon. I have played the Japanese version of Pokemon Black 2, and after I have completed the games, I wanted to transfer my old Pokemon over from my older editions, which were all German editions. But there is a problem. I can't transfer from a Japanese version, from a German version to a Japanese version. So I went out and bought a German version of Pokemon White. Played through it within 10 hours in one day, one sitting, and after completing, I transferred all my Pokemon over.
Oh my god.
And then I traded them all to my Japanese version.
What I said about diligence and efficiency. Right? Oh my god. You went above and beyond the call there, my friend.
Yeah.
So is that it? You've been playing anything else?
I have been to my GameStop, and since the PS2 isn't going to be in production anymore, they have basically giving all of the games away for $1 or $2. And I've picked up 2 games, Suikoden 4, which is a JRPG for the PS2, and Shin Megami Tensei Raido Kusunoha vs. the Soulless Army. and which is very surprising because I've never seen a Shin Megami Tensei game in Germany anywhere,
Really?
in any store. Yeah, never.
Interesting. That was a very good game. I just want to add.
I haven't got around to playing it yet.
It's good. The sequel, Devil Summoner 2, is fantastic as well. I can't recommend that enough. I actually have the sealed boxed special edition right next to me right now. Had to buy two. It's fantastic though. I definitely recommend checking that out.
That's the one with the Jack plushie, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct. The best way to describe it really is Devil May Cry meets Shin Megami Tensei.
That sounds pretty awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
that had to turn.
The combat is actually very similar to I don't know if you've played the original Parasite Eve, but with the free roaming around the battlefield as you fight, it's different, especially when you look at the very rigid combat styles from the other Shin Megami Tensei games. But it's definitely enjoyable, and I think it's a nice change of pace from the other games in the franchise.
Parasite Eve, the game where you run around with a semi-automatic weapon but can only fire it every 7 seconds.
Makes
Now
perfect
that's
sense.
game design.
Well, I guess I'll go into what I've been playing lately. Now, again, I just got my iPad yesterday, and I've been completely immersed in the iOS games. Put a lot of time into already Xenonia 5, which is fantastic. I enjoyed the other games on the 3DS and on the Android, and really the visuals are pretty stunning in this. Again, touchscreen controls can be a little wonky, but overall I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's a nice little alternative to Zelda.
Did you know that you can get Lunar Silver Star Story on there?
Really?
Yep.
Huh. Okay, well, I know what I'm doing after the podcast.
Controls are a little wonky, but I think you can get it. I think it's like a $10, $15 game. And honestly, I've heard you talk about Lunar before, I believe. So
Right.
that'd
big
be
fan.
some good revisitation there for you.
Nice. Also, while I played the demo, I never really invested into the Walking Dead games. I do like what Telltale's been doing. And I just downloaded for free, actually, the first episode of The Walking Dead on the iPad. And I'm really, really enjoying it. The storytelling's been fantastic. I like the options that they present you with some horrible, horrible choices you have to make, saving people in other scenarios. And really making split-second decisions where people's lives depend on it and affect the outcome of the story. It's been exhilarating. I know that our partners at Press Pause Radio nominated The Walking Dead for Game of the Year last year, and really, I'm loving it so far, and I think I'm going to have to follow suit and saying it's fantastic. I'm really looking forward to playing the other chapters in the title. I've also been spending some time with Shadowgun Dead Zone, little derivative, kind of like Gears of War, but the visuals are fantastic. The online's smooth, and I definitely see that becoming a staple while I'm on the toilet for some exhilarating on-the-can deathmatch scenarios. Aside from that, really, I haven't touched my home consoles very much over the past week, aside from playing Little Big Planet 2 with my son. I have, however, fired up the arcade machines, and I've been spending some quality time with Metal Slug X and Metal Slug 3, both of which are fantastic running gun games that everyone has played. If you have not, you don't deserve to play video games, God damn it. So get on that, get some MAME, or find a PlayStation collection, I'm sorry, a SNK collection disc on your PS3 or your Xbox or PSP or however, but play them because they're fucking fantastic. And if you don't, I'll find you. Um, and really, guys, that's pretty much about it. We've already kind of peaked where we wanted to go today, so we're going to close about now. But I just want to say thanks for listening, everybody, and I want to thank everybody for being on. Be sure to follow us at HeyPoorPlayer.com. Also, follow us on Twitter at HeyPoorPlayer. And as well, we have our Facebook group. And don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes. Thanks a lot, and I appreciate you for listening. We'll see you next week.
And YouTube.
And YouTube.
See you
Don't cut
guys
out
later.
YouTube.